Hello everyone. We'd just like to say hello from the Windsor Historical Society. And today we have several honored guests with us today, some Canadian veterans. We're going to speak to you, and I'm going to first introduce Larry Costello, who's going to introduce the rest of the speakers.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Larry Costello. I'm an ex-Navy man, Royal Canadian Navy. We have an assortment of all veterans. I'm proud to be able to introduce these fellow veterans. They're wonderful comrades, and they're here to try and teach you a bit of what the Second World War was and the wars ever since. I want to welcome you all here as Canadians. I've attended quite a few of these new Canadian gatherings. My first part of saying that we want to welcome you as Canadians. We want you to keep your traditions and your heritages, but don't come to Canada and try to force your heritage on us. We want you to make us feel that you're wonderful Canadians. We're so happy to have you here. There's a lot of people come over and they try to force their way of life on us. You've chosen this country. I think you should make this country your home. You remember your heritage, but make Canada proud of you. You don't have to join the military to make you a good Canadian. You just got to be a good Canadian and be proud of it. I started in the Navy in 1941. I was only 16 and a half. My siblings, I had 2 sisters in the Air Force, 3 brothers in the Army, myself in the Navy, and 1 sister was a nursing sister in the Army. They've all went to the great beyond. I don't know why they left me. I'm going to be 88 in December.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Lafrette. I am a born in Windsor boy to a French-Canadian family, and I can speak French as well as English. Not very good at either one of them, but je peux parler en français si c'est nécessaire. I decided to join the Royal Canadian Air Force in 1942. At that point, I was 21 years old, probably younger than many of your fathers, of you people who are here today. Subsequent to graduation in January of 1944, I was posted to an instructor's course on bomb aiming, and subsequent to that, after graduation, was sent to a bombing and gunnery school to teach ground school and bombing to students in the British, what we call the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan. I didn't get to the United Kingdom until March of 1945, which was about 3 months before the war ended. I did not see any active service while I was over there. I didn't do any flying, and even being an airman, I didn't fly overseas. I went over by ship. My service time, of course, was not very heroic in comparison to some of the people who you're talking to or will be talking to today, but I'm quite satisfied that I served 3.5 years attempting to preserve this country in such a manner that I'm able to stand before you, and you will probably stand before us before this is over in your life, to tell us how much you like of Canada. And of course, we're going to stand here today and tell you how much we like Canada, and we fully expect that all of you people who have come here to become Canadian citizens are going to protect this fine country that we have. We did a little bit of a service. Now we're going to ask you people to just stand still and work towards our final wonderful country. I did get married in 1949. I was able to I raised 2 daughters. I have 4 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. At 91 years old, I stand before you quite proud of the fact that I have had quite a life in this wonderful country, and I certainly expect and ask very, very seriously that you people will continue to keep Canada one of the finest nations in the world. Thank you very much.
Because I was 17 and a half when I joined the Air Force in 1943. I got sent to Ottawa for trade reselection because I had been lucky and happened to answer a few good questions in the navigation exam. They wanted me to become a navigator. I said, well, it's crazy. I'm in pilot's course. I could finish up in about another 12 weeks. If I get in a navigator's course, I'm going to be in that for close to a year. And he said, well, what do you think you're good for? I said, well, I can be an air gunner in 6 weeks. He said, you would volunteer to be an air gunner? I said, certainly. Why? Because I want to get overseas. Okay, so I remustered to straight air gunner. Did my course at Mount Pleasant, PEI, Prince Edward Island, and figure, well, I'm going to graduate. Now I'm going to get overseas. Oh, sure. I got sent to a commando course. Finished the commando course. Now I'm going to go overseas. No, I got sent to the Clinical Investigations Unit for the RCAF. Now what's that? Clinical Investigation Unit was the section of the Air Force that did all of the checking and testing of items that were going to be used by aircrew. The most prominent one that I had participated in was what we called a G suit. Now that seems a little bit strange, but what it was a special design suit that would allow you to retain consciousness under aircraft maneuvers that other people could not. So this meant that we could, for instance, right now you're at 1G. That's 1 times gravity. If you go around the corner in a car, you might get up to 2G. If it's high speed and you're really getting thrown around. We used to actually test the G suit at 7.5 G. That's 7.5 times the normal gravity. Your cheeks would come down here and you couldn't lift your arms. A lot of things like that, but they kept on making changes to the suit, minute changes, until they finally had a suit that was operational. However, because the war ended pretty well within about 6 months after that, it did not get used in World War II. I got sent overseas, but we never had anything like that. But when the Korean War came along, the Sabres, which was not as great an aircraft as the MiG, which was the Russian aircraft, which the Chinese people were flying, and the North Korean. It was a better aircraft, but the score on aircraft shot down was 11-1 in favor of the Sabre. Why? Because the Sabre pilots, that would be our Allied pilots, Americans and Canadians, etc., were wearing G suits. One of the reasons that they never went over or north of the Yellow River was because if they had got shot down, then the Russians would have been able to see what the G suit was and would have utilized it. Now I came out to this country. I too am an immigrant. I was 1 year old on the boat coming over. I got sent back to England, where I was born, to go to school when I was 4 and a half. And I raised enough dickens with the family that I got sent back to Canada, thank goodness. I have never been sorry about that. Even at that age, I knew that this was the place for me. And I've never regretted it. I've been very happy in Canada ever since, or most of the time anyway. So all I can say, I want to congratulate you all on becoming Canadian. And by golly, value it, because you can't buy what you have now. Thank you.
Okay, first and foremost, and very quickly, welcome to all of you as immigrants and brand new Canadians. We're very proud and happy to have you here with us. I joined the Army in 1952 to train to go to Korea. At that time, South Korea was under attack by the Communist North, and my regiment was there to help to stop them. And I didn't get to Korea because as we completed our training and were heading over there, a truce was signed, fortunately, in June of 1953. At that time, the regiment was more badly needed in Europe, as the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic had avowed that they were about to attack and take over all of Western Europe. So the NATO forces, which were combined British, American, Canadian, Denmark, Sweden, Italy, Germany did not have an army, so we had to go to Germany to defend Germany, which seemed ironic. Let me tell you that we were successful. Obviously, it was called the Cold War, meaning it didn't get hot. There was no shooting. There's a rumor, which I have done everything I can to spread, which was that the Russians refused to attack once they found out I was there. Now, that's not important. None of this is important. What's important is to welcome you here and remind you of the history of Canada. We are one of the few democracies in the world that evolved without a war. It was a peaceful evolvement. At the time it evolved and became a nation, we were all immigrants. So don't feel lonely out there, because everybody in Canada who formed this great country were immigrants, with the exception of our Aboriginals, Inuits, and Dennis, and Indian tribes. Okay, so we actually were conquering their country. Now, we have evolved into a democracy which is very difficult to hold on to. And the reason for this is that all these wars come along in other countries which threaten our way of life. And our way of life is quite simple, really. I think you will appreciate it. It's about freedom. Your freedom to choose, your freedom to live without racial tension, without religious tension, with the freedom to move around, with the freedom to be part of your country by electing your own people. So we want you to know, don't feel lonely. You are certainly welcome here, and we look forward to you all becoming good Canadians. Thank you.